Toby Young is an author, a journalist, a food critic. He is the son of a Labour life peer, but perhaps he's most famous for losing friends and alienating people. Now, Toby Young means business. He's about to set up one of the first free schools in this country, and he's who we've got in the chair today. Toby Young, tell me about the school that you want to set up.
So I'm trying to set up what will be, I hope, Britain's first Swedish-style free school, which sounds like something a bit weird, but actually it'll be an academy. What'll be different about it is it'll be a parent-sponsored academy. So the group that I'm leading of parents in Acton and Ealing will be the main sponsors of the school. And it'll be a four-form entry school, which means roughly 120 kids a year. We want it to have a sixth form, so in total about 750 children. It'll be non-selective, it'll be open to anyone. We think our admissions policy will be the same as any other comprehensive in the London Borough of Ealing. We want it to teach a classical liberal education, so a fairly narrow, fairly academic curriculum. So quite a challenging curriculum, but one which we hope children of all abilities will be able to cope with.
And when you say free, what do you mean by that?
Well, it'll be free in the sense that it won't cost anything to go there, but it'll also be free in that it'll have a bit more independence from the local and national government than current local maintained secondary schools do. We won't be quite as hidebound by the national curriculum, for instance, as a typical local authority maintained school is.
Yeah, I just wonder whether this is actually going to work. There's one guy with a few other parents, as far as I can see, who want to set up a free school. And are you really going to be in business by 2011?
I hope we are. We can't guarantee it. And I'd hate to have a lot of angry mums on my case who think, well, wait a minute, you told me your school was going to be open in September 2011, so we're not making any promises. I think with the right political wind in our sails, then I think we probably can get it open by September 2011.
Okay, your father, Labour life peer, Michael Young. What was your own education like?
My own education wasn't great. I went to two pretty poor comprehensives and failed all my O-levels, as they then were, with the exception of a grade C in English and a grade 1 in CSE drama. Most people, when they think about setting up schools, they make the mistake of trying to duplicate the school they were at, because that's what they want for their child. Did them the world of good, do their children the world of good. I want to set up a school which doesn't duplicate the kind of school I went to. So I think the problem where I suffered is that I wasn't pushed hard enough. I was allowed to do the soft options. I ended up doing metalwork, woodwork, drama, and no one ever pushed me. No one had high expectations of me. I was written off as essentially unacademic. I even said to my mum at one stage when I failed all my O-levels, "Mum, I don't think I'm academically bright." You know, the middle class euphemism for thick as a plank. And she said, "Oh well, darling, that's not the end of the world." I mean, even my parents didn't have very high expectations of me, and I think that if I'd been in a school more like the kind of school I want to start, then I would have achieved much more, and I'd know much more now. And I'm okay. You know, I come from a middle class background. I was able to kind of pick myself up. I retook. I went to a grammar school. I got into Oxford. I was fine. The problem is for children who don't come from that sort of background and who aren't pushed in school and who do underachieve. You know, once they start underachieving, if they don't get any GCSEs at the age of 16, if they do as poorly as I did, but without my kind of middle class support system, they're screwed. And so I think a school which pushes everybody to achieve the maximum they're able to achieve, so everyone is pushed to the maximum of their potential, that's the kind of school I want to set up.
How did you get, Toby, from nothing, from zero to hero? How did you get into Oxford?
I got into Oxford by accident. A lot of people claim this.
That your dad picked up the phone?
Well, actually, more or less. I'll tell you what happened. I applied to Brasenose because they had this scheme in place to encourage people from state schools to apply. And I was given a pretty reasonable conditional offer of 3 Bs and an O-level pass in a foreign language. I mean, today, no one would be given such a generous conditional offer to get into an Oxford college. And I thought about this, and I thought, well, that's way beyond my capabilities. I'll never get the O-level pass in a foreign language. I'll just focus on the A-levels. So I dispensed with a foreign language, focused on the A-levels, and still only managed to get 2 Bs and a C. And I thought, well, I've clearly blown it. But then I got this letter in the post, and it was addressed "Dear Candidate," and it was on a kind of piece of photocopied paper that had obviously been photocopied hundreds of times. We could barely read it, but it told you where to pick up your room key, what day to arrive, and it was clearly a letter sent out to successful applicants. And I thought, my God, I must have actually got in. And I went around telling everyone. You know, my teachers couldn't believe it. My mother fell off her chair. I mean, I was just astonished. And then a week later, I got another letter. This one from the admissions tutor, addressed to me personally. You know, "Dear Toby, not only did you fail to meet our very generous conditional offer, you didn't even make an attempt to get an O-level pass in a foreign language. We cannot find a place for you at Brasenose. Good luck in your university career elsewhere." You know, practically underlined, elsewhere. And that was obviously the correct letter. And I said to my father, well, I've got these 2 letters, and I got this one first and this one second, and this one's obviously the right one. He said, no, let's not jump to that conclusion. Let's ring up the admissions tutor and find out which one the correct one is. And I was like, no, don't do that. That's really embarrassing. It's really obviously this one, not this one. He said, no, I insist we call up. And he was a never say die kind of guy. I mean, it ain't over till the fat lady sang. And so we called up the admissions tutor, and he happened to be in a meeting with the PPE tutors, and I'd applied to do philosophy, politics, and economics. And he said, well, which letter did he get first? And my father said, well, the one implying he got in. And then he kind of put his hand over the phone and had a conversation and they had a kind of debate about whether having sent me the letter implying I got in created a moral obligation on their part to offer me a place. You know, and they went back and forth. It got quite philosophical. And eventually he came back on the phone and said, okay, he can come. And so that's how I got into Oxford. I think the main reason why people are excited by this is that there's a general sense that that British state education is not as successful as it should be, given how much money has been invested in it. And in particular, it's the most underprivileged who are being failed by it. If you look at the number of students who are eligible for free school meals, who got 3 A's at A-level last year, the number's 75, that's boys. 75 boys out of the entire population of boys eligible for free school meals got 3 A's. That compares to 175 boys at Eton. So that's one single school producing almost 3 times as many boys eligible for top universities as the entire population of poor boys in the United Kingdom. And that's a shocking and scandalous statistic.
That Toby chap, yes, he was quite good, wasn't he?
He was very good. I thought he was incredibly inspiring, incredibly serious. Not the kind of chap I was expecting. I was expecting a bit of a joker, and he really wasn't like that. I think he's probably grown up, don't you, Jess?
I think so. He's sort of written about the fact that he got on people's nerves by being a bit of a wally. But now I don't think he's wally like at all, do you?
I don't think so. I think he just wants to do something really amazing for the education system, and I'm pretty certain he's going to do it.
Timing's right, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Totally and utterly. Marvellous. Well, I think that's a wrap, don't you, Ruth?
I think that's a wrap.